I spent years giving. My time, my career, my body, my soul. I poured everything into him, into us. While he chased success, I stayed behind, holding the pieces together like glue no one saw. He called it love. I called it loyalty. But loyalty doesn't mean a thing to a man like Ethan. To him, I was background noise, a wife who didn't complain too loudly, didn't ask for much. He once looked me in the eye and said, "You'd be nothing without me." Then he left for coffee and never came back. He thought I'd crumble. He thought I'd stay quiet. But I found the ticket, I found the emails, and I found myself. Hi, I'm Claire Caldwell. And this is the story of how I stopped being invisible and burned the life he thought I'd never walk away from. He told. Me was going out for coffee, just coffee. It was a Saturday morning, quiet, uneventful, the kind of morning that settles into your bones like a familiar song. I was folding laundry in the living room while the kettle whistled in the kitchen. He kissed my cheek absent-mindedly, not the kind of kiss that says, "I love you," but one that says, "I need to keep up appearances." He said, "Be back, in an hour." But an hour turned into 3. And 3 turned into a sick, gnawing suspicion I couldn't explain. You know that feeling in your stomach, when something's off, but you can't name it? That's what I felt. I tried to brush it off. Maybe he ran into a friend, maybe the cafe was packed, maybe he just needed space. But then I saw it. A plane ticket. Folded and half hidden under the seat in his car, like it had slipped from his bag. I found it the next morning when I went to grab my sunglasses from the glove box before heading to the farmer's market. My fingers brushed something paper-thin. I pulled it out without thinking. My heart stopped. One way. To Miami. Departure, Saturday night. Name on the ticket, Ethan Caldwell, my husband. No return flight. No mention of it. No goodbye. I sat in the driveway with the car door open, ticket trembling in my hand like a secret that didn't want to be kept. The sun was beating down, birds chirping, a neighbor's sprinkler hissing in the distance. And I sat there, numb, breathless, my mind racing faster than my pulse. Miami? Why? Why would he buy a one-way ticket? Why would he lie? Why coffee? I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I also wasn't stupid. We'd been married 10 years. 10 years of holidays, birthdays, house chores, shared bank accounts, and quiet compromises. 10 years of believing in a future we were building together. Slow, imperfect, but ours. And now this? A plane ticket I didn't know about? He got home later that day, holding a paper bag with 2 coffees inside, smiling like nothing had happened. "Sorry I took so long," he said. "Place was packed." I stared at him. I wanted to ask, "Were you planning to tell me? Were you going to disappear without a word?" But I couldn't. Not yet. So I smiled. Back. "All good," I lied, because I knew something now, something he hadn't counted on. And I wasn't going to blow my chance by confronting him without a plan. I tucked the ticket into a folder in the back of my desk drawer. And that night, as he scrolled through Netflix beside me, I watched his face not as a wife, but as a woman, studying a stranger. The betrayal hadn't landed yet, not fully. It hovered just outside the edge of my chest, waiting to pierce. But something inside me shifted. Something cracked. And where my trust once lived, something sharper grew. I didn't cry that night. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse him. Instead, I made tea, and I started remembering. The late-night phone calls he always took outside. The business trips that just came up. The sudden distance. The passwords changed. The small, almost invisible withdrawal from us. Maybe I had been blind, or maybe I had just trusted the wrong man for too long. But now I had proof, and the game had officially begun. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there next to him, listening to his breathing, the slow, steady rhythm of someone with nothing to hide, or maybe someone who thought he'd hidden everything just well enough. I stared at the ceiling, every blink bringing a new memory into focus, small moments I had ignored, the late nights, the unexpected meetings, the dead battery excuses when I couldn't reach him. All of it had been hiding in plain sight, and I had let it. The next morning, while he showered, I opened his laptop. He always thought I was too technically challenged to find anything. Maybe that's why he didn't bother logging out of his emails. His inbox was neat, too neat, but tucked into the archived folder were the clues. Dozens of emails with a name I'd never seen before. Amelia R. subject lines, like, "Flight booked, counting the days." I still dream about that weekend. My hands shook. I clicked one. There she was, young, blonde, wearing a red bikini in a mirror selfie, captioned, "Missing your hands on me already." The timestamp? 3 days ago. While I was home making him dinner, she was texting him from God knows where, thanking him for the best weekend of my life. While I was budgeting groceries, she was making plans for the next getaway. They had hotel receipts, restaurant bills, even a shared calendar with blocked-out dates labeled us time, us time. I wanted to vomit. I didn't. I closed the laptop quietly, placed it back where I found it. When he came into the room with a towel around his waist and asked, "Hey, babe, any plans for breakfast?" I just smiled. "Nope," I said, "whatever you want." Because I needed more than just one ticket and a few emails. I needed enough to ruin him. Enough to make sure he never saw it coming. But before the revenge, there was grief. It hit me in waves, like the kind you think you can brace for, but never really can. At the grocery store, I stood frozen in front of the pasta aisle, staring at a box of shells we always used for pasta night, and I started crying. Right there, in public, because that box was a lie now, too. Everything felt tainted. Even the walls of our home had a heaviness to them, like they were holding 1,000 secrets I hadn't noticed. He kept pretending, still kissing me goodnight, still asking about my day, still reaching for my hand while we watched TV. That's what scared me the most. Not that he had cheated, but how well he could lie. How easily he wore the face of the man I thought I married. It made me wonder how long he'd been gone, really gone. Was it just this woman? Or were there others? Was I a fool for still living here, still cooking his meals? I couldn't leave, not yet, not without a plan. He handled most of the finances. The house was in his name. I had sacrificed my career to help build his business and take care of the home. If I walked away now, he'd win, and he knew it. That's why he felt bold enough to cheat. Because he thought I had no leverage, no money, no escape. But I had something better now. Knowledge. And I was going to use it. He went out that evening, saying he had a business dinner, no kiss this time. Just a distracted, "Don't. Wait up." I didn't. Instead, I sat at his computer and printed everything. Emails, receipts, calendar entries, even a hotel confirmation that matched the flight ticket I found. I bought a burner drive and saved copies of everything. I took photos of the printed documents and uploaded them to a private cloud folder. I wasn't going to confront him with emotion. I was going to dismantle him with facts. But first, I needed to understand why this mattered more than just heartbreak. Because what he took wasn't just trust. It was time, sacrifice, the better part of my life. He didn't just cheat on a wife. He betrayed the woman who built his world for him. And now? Now I was going to take it all back, piece by piece. The betrayal didn't just unravel my heart. It unraveled my life. See, I wasn't just his wife. I was his partner, his anchor, the silent force behind everything he had built. When we got married, Ethan had a dream, but no direction. I was the one who built the spreadsheets, called the vendors, stayed up late editing his pitch decks while he slept beside me, snoring like a man who never worried where the money would come from. I gave up my own career in marketing to support his startup because he promised, "We're in this together." Together. That word haunted me. We had merged everything, our money, our lives, our futures. I gave him my best years while quietly letting mine slip away. And now he was planning to disappear with a younger woman, like I was just some phase in his life story he could skip over. No, I wasn't going to let that happen. Because this wasn't just about a cheating husband. It was about erasure. About the way women are expected to keep giving while being told they're replaceable the second they get tired, older, less exciting. Ethan didn't just betray our vows. He tried to write me out of my own life. He booked that one-way flight not because he was afraid, but because he assumed I wouldn't fight back. Because I made myself small for so long that he forgot I could take up space, that I could burn it all down if I wanted to. And let me be clear, he wasn't just cheating. He was stealing. There were transfers from our joint account. Sneaky little amounts that started months ago. $2,000 here. $4,500 there. All labeled as business expenses. But those funds didn't go to vendors or clients. They went to high-end. Hotels, spa retreats, even a jewelry store in Miami. I found the receipts in his email, billed to a card I didn't know he had. And guess whose name was still on the tax filings? Mine. If he left, and the IRS came knocking, I'd be on the hook. He knew that. He'd built it that way. So while I was pouring my life into us, he was engineering his escape. I started having panic attacks at night. Lying in bed next to him, I'd feel my chest tighten like I was suffocating under the weight of my own silence. But I'd stare at the ceiling, willing myself not to cry. Because I couldn't afford to fall apart. Not now. One night I sat in the guest bathroom with the door locked and stared at my reflection under the fluorescent light. I looked empty, pale, older than I remembered. There were faint lines. Under my eyes, my lips cracked from forgetting to drink water again. I had become a ghost in my own home. I whispered to myself, "You're still in there. You haven't disappeared." I needed to hear it, to believe it, because for so long I had allowed myself to revolve around him, his schedule, his moods, his business, his dreams. I thought that's what love was, supporting, sacrificing, staying. But what about me? What about my dreams, my voice? He didn't just cheat on me. He treated me like a support beam, meant to hold everything up, never to be seen or appreciated. And when he thought he didn't need that beam anymore, he planned to walk away and build something new without it. Well, he was about to find out what happens when the foundation starts to shake. This mattered because it wasn't just about hurt feelings. It was about stolen years, stolen security, and the audacity of a man who thought I'd let it all go quietly. He underestimated me, and I was going to show him exactly what that mistake would cost. I didn't scream. I didn't pack a bag or call my sister crying in the middle of the night. I planned. Because if Ethan was going to build an escape route behind my back, I was going to set landmines on the path ahead of him. I started with information, because knowledge is leverage. And in marriages like ours, where everything's intertwined, the one with the clearer mind always wins. Step 1. Protect myself financially. I opened a separate bank account in a different bank, one with no ties to our joint accounts. Quietly. Efficiently. I began moving small amounts of money into it from my freelance work and side savings, amounts too small to trigger alarms. Then I printed every document I could find. I downloaded his credit card statements, his flight itinerary, hotel bills, even the flirty emails from Amelia R. that he thought were locked away in his archived folder. All saved on a password-protected flash drive I kept hidden inside. A tampon box in the back of our medicine cabinet. I contacted an attorney, not a fancy high-rise office type, but a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Elaine, who specialized in high-asset divorces and had seen men like Ethan 1,000 times over. She didn't blink when I showed her the receipts. She just said, "You're in a better position than you think." That's when I knew I wasn't powerless. Ethan wanted to disappear, but now I had the tools to make sure he wouldn't disappear quietly. Step 2. Time his downfall. The Miami flight was booked for Saturday night. That gave me 5 days. 5 days to gather everything, to set the stage. I didn't tell anyone, not even my closest friends, because people talk, and I needed silence on my side. Silence is what catches people off guard. It's what gives you the upper hand when they think you're still clueless. I bought a simple voice recorder and placed it in the glove box of his car. Not because I wanted more proof of the affair, I already had that, but because I wanted to hear how he talked about me. What I found made my blood turn cold. She still thinks I'm working overtime, he told someone on the phone, laughing. Honestly, I don't even feel bad. She's gotten so boring. It's like living with a houseplant. A houseplant. 10 years of loyalty, of holding him up through every failed pitch, every financial scare, every moment he wanted to give up, and I was a houseplant to him. That was the moment I knew. This wouldn't just be a confrontation. This would be surgical. Step 3. Let him bury himself. On Friday evening, I told him I was heading to a friend's overnight retreat out of town. He barely looked up from his phone. Cool, he muttered. Have fun. I left. But not really. I parked 2 blocks away and waited. Sure enough, Amelia showed up around 9 p.m., dressed in a slinky red dress, giggling like she owned the place. He greeted her at the door, grinning like a man who'd just won the lottery. Eyes. Took photos. Every single one. Saturday morning, I walked into our home like nothing had happened. He was upstairs shaving, whistling. Big day? I asked, leaning against the doorframe. He smiled. Just need some fresh air. Gonna grab coffee. Again with the coffee. I smiled back. Bring me something sweet. He laughed and kissed my forehead. I watched him go. Then I walked into the home office, sat at his desk, and sent a single email from his account to his investors. Subject line, a matter of integrity. Attached, everything. Emails, photos, credit card statements, hotel confirmations, even a screenshot of his call with Amelia where he mocked one of his clients and joked about milking them dry. I hit send, and just like that, I had pulled the first thread. By the time his plane landed, he wouldn't just be walking into the arms of his mistress, he'd be walking into the fallout of the lie he spent months building. He thought he was starting a new life. He had no idea I was ending his old one. The thing about men like Ethan is, they think they're smarter than you. They count on your silence, your shock, your heartbreak. They assume you'll collapse under the weight of betrayal. But I didn't. I sharpened it into a weapon. After I sent the email to his investors, I logged out, cleared the search history, and left the home office exactly as I found it. I didn't panic. I didn't gloat. I simply got dressed, made myself a strong cup of coffee, and waited for the dominoes to fall. By noon, my phone buzzed. It was Ethan. I didn't answer. 3 more missed calls followed. Then came the texts. Did you do something? What the hell is going on? Call me. Now. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked into the bank and requested a freeze on our joint accounts, citing suspected fraudulent activity. My lawyer had coached me on what to say, and I had the documentation ready. The teller was sympathetic. She filed the freeze without hesitation. Then I visited Elaine's office. She had already received a courtesy call from Ethan's investor relations manager, one of the recipients of my little email drop. According to him, the board was furious. Investors were panicking. Trust had been shattered. A meeting had been called, urgently. Ethan's image as the brilliant, loyal CEO had been punctured. But that wasn't all. Elaine helped me file a formal petition for divorce that same day, complete with a motion to prevent the sale or transfer of any marital assets. Since I had gathered enough evidence proving infidelity and financial misconduct, we were moving with precision. No mess, just method. I also contacted our accountant, someone Ethan always underestimated. I told him I had questions about the last 2 years of tax returns and asked if he would be willing to go over them with me. He agreed. What we found? Well, let's just say Ethan had been creative. Fake vendor payments, off-the-books expenses, shell transfers. Everything I needed to show not just a betrayal of our marriage, but of his business partners too. Meanwhile, I sent anonymous copies of those financial records to a journalist I trusted, someone who had once interviewed Ethan for a Rising Stars in Tech piece and was always sniffing for a scandal. I didn't need them to run it yet, just to hold it, just in case. Back at home, I started quietly boxing up his things, not out of spite, but because I wanted them ready. He had no idea that while he was lounging in a Miami hotel suite, his world was collapsing one email, one form, one court document at a time. On Sunday night, I got a call from a blocked number. I answered. It was Amelia. Her voice was cold. "What kind of psycho are you?" she hissed. I almost laughed. "Oh, sweetheart," I said calmly. "You haven't even met Psycho yet." Then I hung up, because I wasn't wasting another breath defending my pain to the woman who helped cause it. By Monday morning, the press had caught wind. Not the scandal I'd leaked, that hadn't dropped yet, but rumors, rumblings of investor unrest. Something off at Ethan's startup. I could almost taste the sweat on his upper lip from here. The house was quiet that day. Too quiet. So I turned on the speakers, played Nina Simone, and made myself a full breakfast. Because I had finally learned something that no one had ever taught me. You don't have to fall apart just because someone tried to break you. You can rise, clean, focused, and unapologetic. One thread at a time, I was unraveling Ethan's entire double life. But the best part? He hadn't even seen the end yet. That was coming, and I was going to be there for every second of it. Ethan came home on Tuesday morning. He wasn't supposed to. The ticket said one way. Miami was supposed to be his new beginning, his escape, with Amelia. But when his phone blew up, when the investors turned on him, when the credit cards stopped working and the accounts froze, he panicked. He ran home. Back to the life he thought he had outgrown. Back to the woman he thought would always stay small and silent. I was in the kitchen when he barged in, red-faced and sweating. "What the hell did you do?" he shouted, slamming the door so hard the walls trembled. I looked up from my tea. "I exposed you," I said quietly. His face twisted. "You don't understand. This was business. Those emails were private." "You mean the emails where you called me a houseplant? Or the ones where you said you were done pretending, while spending our joint money on hotel rooms and spa dates with a woman half my age?" He opened his mouth to speak, but I held up a folder, one of the thick ones Elaine had prepared. "Go ahead, say something smart, but just know this, everything you built, I'm taking my half, maybe more. You left fingerprints all over every lie. I made sure of that. You think they'll believe you?" He snapped. "You think they care?" I stepped forward, voice steady. "They already do. Your investors, the press, the IRS. The only person who doesn't know it's over is you." He laughed, hollow, desperate. "You're not this person," he said. "You don't have it in you." I leaned in. "That's the thing, Ethan. You never really saw me. You saw what I did for you, how I held everything together, but you never saw me. And now I'm done being invisible." His jaw clenched. I handed him another folder, this one from the lawyer. "Consider this official. You're being served. I've filed for divorce, with evidence of financial misconduct, marital waste, and infidelity. My lawyer has everything. If you want to fight it in court, fine. Just know, your secrets are already floating out there. I can't unring that bell." For the first time in years, I saw fear on his face. Real fear. Because he knew this wasn't a tantrum. This was consequence. He paced the kitchen like a man stuck in a trap he'd set himself. "You ruined everything," he muttered. "No," I said. "You did that. I just made sure everyone else saw it." He left without another word. No apology, no excuses. Just silence. And it was the sweetest silence I'd ever known. In the weeks that followed, it all came crashing down for him. The board forced him out of his own company. His name was blacklisted in investor circles. Amelia? She ghosted him the second the money ran dry. I, on the other hand, walked away not just with my share, but with my voice. I got a new apartment, sunlit, quiet, mine. I picked up freelance. Work again. I smiled more, slept better, started humming in the mornings like I used to before I lost myself in his shadow. The press never printed the full scandal. They didn't have to. Enough whispers remained to make sure no one would trust Ethan with their money or their daughters again. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not forgiving him. I don't. Because this wasn't about vengeance. It was about restoration. He burned my trust. So I built something new, from the ashes. I reclaimed my life. Not with screaming matches or dramatic scenes, but with calm precision, truth, and the kind of quiet strength he never believed I had. My name is Claire Caldwell. And the next time someone tells you they're just going out for coffee, trust your gut. And if they lie, let them. Then light the match and watch the truth burn brighter than the lies ever could.